In this video, we'll be taking a look at one college football game happening on December 16, 2025, and providing you with a free team pick and total pick for this game. So 2 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on this one college football game after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Troy versus Jacksonville State. Tuesday night in Montgomery should feel like proper bowl season, not background programming. Troy and Jacksonville State are meeting in the IS4S Salute to Veterans Bowl, right in the middle of their 2 campuses, and that alone cranks up the energy. Troy wrapped the regular season at 8-5, winning the Sun Belt West with a 6-2 conference record and punching a ticket to the league title game. They could not finish the job, losing 31-14 to James Madison, but they still arrive here as a division champion with something to prove. Goose Crowder took over the offense down the stretch and closed the year as the Trojans' starting quarterback, throwing for 1,314 yards and 11 touchdowns across 7 games. On the ground, their top producer was Tay Meadows, who stacked up 695 rushing yards and 6 scores. Jacksonville State also finished 8-5 with a 7-1 mark in Conference USA, then fell 19-15 to Kennesaw State in the conference championship. Quarterback Caden Creel ended up as their leading passer with 1,341 yards and 8 touchdown throws, but the real story is the backfield. The Gamecocks rolled through the season with 2 1,000-yard rushers. Cam Cook powered the offense with 1,659 rushing yards and 16 touchdowns, while Creel added 1,085 yards and 7 touchdowns with his legs. That is a lot of broken tackles and worn-out linebackers. This matchup has the feel of an old in-state argument being restarted. The game is in Montgomery, the drive is short for both fan bases, and bragging rights sit right next to the trophy. In early bowls, you sometimes see half-empty stands and teams that look like they would rather be home wrapping gifts. That is not the vibe here. From a spread angle, everything starts with Jacksonville State's rushing attack against Troy's front. The Gamecocks lean hard on their ground game, and it is not a gimmick, it is their identity. Their offense flows from Cook and Creel running at you from different angles, down after down. That is a stressful way to live for any defense, especially one that has had trouble holding up against the run. Troy has been vulnerable on the ground, allowing around 192 rushing yards per game, which drops them into the low 100 teens nationally in that category. The James Madison game was the glaring example. In that matchup, the Trojans surrendered 318 rushing yards on 42 carries, which works out to 7.6 yards per attempt. When you are bleeding that kind of yardage, you are not getting off the field. Against a team like Jacksonville State that wants to run all night anyway, that weakness gets put under a spotlight. On the Jacksonville State side, the formula is refreshingly simple. Hand the ball to Cook, let Creel make plays on designed runs and scrambles, and force the defense to pick its poison. Their rushing attack has been one of the very best in the country, both by volume and by consistent chunk gains. It is the kind of run game that does not need tricks, it just keeps leaning on you until somebody slips. Now, Troy is still getting early respect at the window. The Trojans have covered in 8 of their last 10 and sit at 9-4 against the spread this season. Bettors remember that, and trends like that tend to stick in people's heads like a catchy song. But the surface-level record hides some issues. Troy has scored 14 points or fewer in 3 of its last 5 games and has struggled to finish drives. They move the ball at times, then stall when the field shrinks. Personnel only adds more questions. Crowder returned for the Sun Belt title game after missing time, but he is listed as questionable here. If he is limited or out, that is a big deal for an offense already fighting to put up points. Meadows will not be available after entering the transfer portal, so Troy's already modest ground game, which averaged 98.8 rushing yards per contest, has to lean on backups. You can scheme around a missing running back, but replacing your top rusher while your quarterback's status is cloudy is not ideal in a physical bowl like this. Jacksonville State, on the other hand, sounds like it will have most of its key pieces available, and that alone feels huge. Cook is still in the backfield, Creel is still a genuine dual threat, and that continuity in the core of the offense matters when game plans shrink and coaches trust what they know best. There are valid concerns about the Jacksonville State defense, which is leaky and can give up explosives, but that concern is softened by how unreliable Troy's offense has been, especially when it comes to punching drives into the end zone. Honestly, this feels like a spot where Jacksonville State can lean on Troy's front, control the trenches, and tilt both time of possession and field position. The Gamecocks' rushing production, with a top 10 profile and two 1,000-yard rushers, lines up almost perfectly with Troy's weakest defensive trait. When the underdog's strength runs directly into the favorite's weakness, you usually pay attention. It is a bit puzzling that Jacksonville State is catching points here, but given that reality, the more likely side to stay inside the number and very possibly win outright is the one running the ball downhill. As our first pick for this matchup, the Jacksonville State Gamecocks to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. On paper, you might look at Jacksonville State's explosive ground game and Troy's recent run of overs and think points could pile up. The Trojans have seen the total go over in each of their last 5 games, in 5 of their last 6 against Conference USA teams, and in 7 of their last 8 games played on a Tuesday. That is a pretty strong trend. Part of that is football, part of that is how odd Tuesday games can be, with short practice weeks, weird routines, and defenses that sometimes show up a half step late. But style of play matters just as much, and here the styles pull in different directions. Jacksonville State does not want a track meet, it wants a slow burn. The Gamecocks' ground game averages 258 rushing yards per contest, and their whole offensive rhythm is built around long rushing sequences that chew clock. They run more often than they throw, and when you call runs on first and second down, the game clock keeps spinning. Each possession gets longer, each team gets fewer drives. That naturally puts a cap on how many points can fit into 4 quarters. Troy's offense, meanwhile, has not been very explosive on the scoreboard lately. Scoring 14 or fewer points in 3 of the last 5 games is not exactly the calling card of a shootout team. Overall, the Trojans average 24.5 points and 380.3 total yards per game, which is solid, but the red zone execution and finishing power have been inconsistent. Their own ground game, sitting at 98.8 rushing yards per outing, does not always help them stay ahead of the chains or salt away long drives. That creates an odd tension. They can move the ball, but they do not always turn yards into touchdowns. On the other side, Jacksonville State's defense gives up 26.2 points and 391.2 yards per game. Those are not great numbers. You could argue that a porous defense plus a run-heavy offense is a recipe for volatility. Big plays allowed on one end, big plays created on the other. Sometimes that combination pushes games toward wild swings and higher totals. But in this particular matchup, the opponent is a Troy offense that has rarely looked like a quick strike unit this season. Here is the thing. When you project total points, it is not just about raw scoring averages, it is about how the game is likely to be played. The most likely script has Jacksonville State pounding the ground game, draining clock, and reducing the total number of possessions. Each time Cook or Creel picks up a grinded-out first down, they are not just moving the chains, they are taking another 30 or 40 seconds off the scoreboard. If Troy continues to struggle finishing drives, some of their trips may end in field goals, stalled 4th downs, or punts after decent but not devastating marches. That sort of game flow favors a tighter, lower-scoring outcome. There is always the chance that a couple of long touchdown runs or defensive breakdowns blow things open and push it higher than expected. That is the basic tension between the overs trend and the stylistic matchup. But when you weigh a run-dominant Jacksonville State offense, a Troy unit that has had trouble punching in touchdowns, and the expectation of fewer total drives on both sides, the more reasonable position is that the scoring ceiling stays a bit lower than the market number suggests. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.